The jungle was dark. The sky above was hidden by thick black clouds. The only sound was the wind moving slowly between the tall alien trees. Every shadow looked alive. Every step could mean danger. And in that jungle, one hunter moved carefully. She was not human. She was an alien warrior. Her armor was sharp, her mask cold, and her eyes always scanning the ground. For 3 days she had followed the same trail. The trail of her prey, a human. She had been trained all her life for hunting. She knew how to track, how to listen, and how to strike. Many enemies had fallen before her. But this time it was different. The human was not like the others. He did not fight with strong weapons. He did not roar or threaten. Instead, he disappeared. He tricked her. He made her waste time. The alien warrior stopped near a broken branch. Her fingers touched the wood. Fresh. The human had passed this way. She turned her head, her mask glowing faintly in the dark. Her breathing inside the helmet sounded louder. The hunt was close. She followed the trail again. A footprint in the soft ground. Then another. Each step made her pulse rise. She wanted the chase to end. She wanted victory. Yet, inside her heart, something new was growing. Something she did not understand. Respect. The human was clever, too clever. He moved without sound. He used the jungle like a shield. He hid his path with leaves. He crossed water to break the trail. He left false signs to confuse her. Every time she thought she was near, the human escaped again. She whispered to herself, voice hard and low, "Why is this prey so hard to catch?" Her people had always called humans weak, soft skin, fragile bones, easy prey, but she was learning a new truth. This one was not weak. This one survived where even strong hunters could fail. The night grew colder. Mist rolled through the trees. She adjusted her armor and moved forward. She could not give up. Her honor as a warrior was at stake. Her people were waiting for her return. A hunter never failed. Then a sound, a sharp crack, a branch breaking somewhere close. Her heart raced. The sound was not far. Slowly, carefully, she crouched low. Her hand tightened around her weapon. She listened again, silence, only the wind and the mist. But she knew she was not alone. The human was near. She moved step by step, her eyes scanning every shadow. A stone rolled under her foot. She froze. The jungle was silent, as if holding its breath. Somewhere in the dark she felt it. A gaze. Someone watching her. She turned sharply, weapon ready. Nothing. Only trees. Only shadows, but deep inside she knew. The human was not running now. He was waiting. Her mask scanned the ground. The fresh footprints ended near the roots of a huge tree. She touched the soil. Still warm. He had been here moments ago. The alien warrior rose to her full height. Her voice came out in a growl. "You cannot hide forever, human." No answer. Only silence. She stepped forward. The jungle seemed to close around her. She could almost hear a faint breath in the air just behind her, just out of reach. Her pulse beat louder. Her weapon hummed. Her eyes narrowed. Then, suddenly, a rustle of leaves to her left. She spun. A shadow moved between the trees. Tall, quick, human. She ran. Her armor clashed as she rushed forward. Branches tore around her. The shadow leaped over rocks, vanished into the mist. She chased faster and faster. Every step brought her closer. Every step made her feel victory. But then, just as she was about to catch him, the trail split. 2 paths. 2 sets of footprints. Both fresh. Both leading deeper into the dark. She stopped, breathing hard. Her mind raced. Which was real? Which was a trick? The human had fooled her again. The alien warrior clenched her fists. Her mask glowed red for a moment, showing her frustration. She raised her head to the sky and let out a low growl. This was no ordinary hunt. This was a game of shadows. This was a test of minds. And for the first time in her life, the hunter began to wonder if she was the one being hunted. The wind moved again, carrying the sound of distant steps. She looked ahead into the dark jungle, her eyes burning with determination. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The jungle slept under the cold night sky. Yet 2 minds were awake, locked in a silent battle. The hunter and the hunted. The alien warrior and the human. She stood still, her mask glowing softly, staring at the twin trails of footprints. One path curved left, deeper into thick vines. The other cut right toward a dark cave mouth. Both trails looked fresh. Both trails looked real. But only one was true. Her heart thumped inside her chest. The human had played another trick. He was not just running. He was planning. Each move was designed to confuse her. She crouched down, touching the soil with her armored hand. The left path smelled faintly of crushed leaves. The right path carried the echo of disturbed stones. Which one was him? Which one was a lie? The warrior's eyes narrowed. Her people had trained her to see details no one else could. She picked the right trail. The cave. Humans liked shelter. It made sense. She rose slowly, weapon in hand, and stepped forward. The cave entrance stood like a black mouth against the jungle wall. Cold air drifted out, carrying a smell of damp stone. She moved carefully inside. Her boots echoed against the wet floor. The deeper she went, the darker it grew. Her mask lit the walls with faint blue light. Strange shapes twisted in the stone, shadows that looked alive. Her weapon hummed in her hand. Her breath grew louder inside the helmet. She felt something. A presence. The human was close. A drop of water fell from the ceiling and splashed against the ground. The sound was sharp in the silence. Then another. Then footsteps, soft, fast, retreating deeper inside. She ran. Her armor scraped the rock as she pushed forward. The tunnel bent left, then right. The sound of footsteps faded, then returned, echoing from everywhere. She slowed, confused. The human had tricked her again. He was using the cave like a trap. Her eyes scanned the walls. Strange marks were scratched into the stone, lines, symbols. Human hands had done this. Warnings or another trick? She touched the marks but found no answer. Then a sudden crash behind her. She spun around. Rocks tumbled from the ceiling. Dust filled the air. She coughed, her mask filters hissing. The path she had come from was now blocked. She was trapped, but she was not afraid. She was a warrior. Fear was for the weak. She pressed forward. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber. Stalactites hung like teeth from above. Water dripped into a pool that glowed faintly in the dark. Across the chamber she saw it, something on the ground. A pack. Human-made. She rushed forward, crouching low. Inside the pack she found food. Berries, dried meat, simple tools. All carefully arranged. But it was more than supplies. It was a message. Enough food for two. Her mind froze. Why? Why would the human leave this behind? Was it bait, a trap? Or something else? Her weapon stayed ready, but her thoughts twisted. She had hunted humans before. None of them behaved like this. They ran, they screamed, they died. But this one, he played games. He left food. He left marks. He was not just prey. Her eyes scanned the chamber again. The shadows seemed to move. Somewhere hidden in the dark, he was watching. She could feel it. Show yourself. She growled, her voice echoing against the stone. No answer, but in the silence she heard it, a faint laugh. Human, soft, calm. The sound sent a chill through her. Prey did not laugh. Prey begged. Prey cried. But this one was different. She spun in every direction, scanning with her mask. The laughter faded into the darkness. Her pulse raced. She was not in control anymore. The human was leading the game. Her weapon shook slightly in her hand. She clenched her fist to steady it. She could not let doubt grow. She was the hunter. She was the predator. The human was nothing but prey, and yet, why did she feel hunted? The cave grew colder. The glow of the water reflected on the stone walls. She stepped back slowly, her mind uneasy. The food in the pack remained where it was, untouched. A choice. A message. She whispered under her breath, words meant only for herself. This is no ordinary human. Her instincts screamed at her to leave, but her honor chained her in place. She turned toward a narrow exit at the far end of the chamber. The human was still out there, still moving, still watching. The chase would not end tonight. The warrior tightened her grip on the weapon and stepped into the tunnel, her heart pounding louder than her footsteps. Somewhere ahead, the human waited. Somewhere ahead, the game of cat and mouse would continue, and in the deep shadows of the cave, eyes glimmered, watching her every move. The hunt was not ending, the hunt was changing. The cave breathed with silence. Every drip of water echoed like a heartbeat. The alien warrior stepped carefully, her weapon ready, her mask glowing in the dark. She had felt it, eyes on her. The human was here, Somewhere close. The tunnel narrowed, pressing in around her like the throat of a beast. She crouched, her armor scraping the rock. The air smelled of earth and fire ash. That scent did not belong to the cave. That scent was human. Her pulse quickened. For days she had chased him, but this moment was different. This was no longer the wide jungle where shadows could swallow prey. This was stone, tight and closed. He had nowhere left to run, or so she believed. A faint sound drifted to her ears. A shuffle, a breath. She froze, tilting her head. The sound came from behind a wall of stone. There must be a hidden path. She pressed her palm against the wall, sliding it along the rough surface. Then she found it, an opening, narrow, nearly invisible. She stepped inside, the passage twisted like a serpent. Darkness closed around her, broken only by the faint blue light of her mask. Her weapon hummed in her hand. She could hear her own breath, steady but heavy. Then came the noise again. Footsteps, light, fast, fading deeper into the stone. She rushed forward. The tunnel widened suddenly into a chamber, and there, she saw him, the human. He stood near the far wall, his back half turned. His clothes were torn, his face thin, but his eyes were alive, sharp, watchful, filled with fire. For a moment neither of them moved. The alien warrior lifted her weapon. The sound of its power filled the chamber. "It is over," she said, her voice deep and cold. The human did not flinch. He only smiled. That smile unsettled her. No prey had ever smiled at her before. "You think you've caught me," the human said softly, his voice echoing against the stone. "But you've been walking where I wanted you to walk." Before she could answer, a stone dropped from above. She leapt aside, her instincts saving her. The human had set a trap. Rocks tumbled, dust filled the air, the ground shook beneath her boots. Through the haze, she saw him dart toward another tunnel. She growled, pushing forward, shoving fallen stones aside. She would not lose him again. She chased him down the new passage, their footsteps echoing like drumbeats. He was fast, but she was faster. The tunnel twisted, turned, then narrowed again. She was closing in. The human glanced back. His eyes met hers. And in that instant, something passed between them. Not fear, not anger, but something else. Understanding, respect? She could not name it. The chase ended abruptly when the tunnel split. He turned left and she followed, but the ground betrayed them both. A loose rock gave way and the earth shook. She stumbled forward as the human slipped, falling into a lower pit. Without thinking, she leapt after him. They crashed into darkness together. The fall was not deep, but it was hard. Dust rose, filling the air. She rolled to her feet quickly, weapon raised. The human lay only a few steps away. He had not run. He had not even reached for a weapon. He sat up slowly, his chest rising with heavy breaths. The warrior pointed her weapon at him. Her mask glowed red. "End of the hunt," she said, but again. He smiled. "Look around," he whispered. She frowned. Her eyes scanned the pit. At first she saw only stone and shadows. Then her mask sensors caught it. Wooden stakes, sharpened rocks, hidden traps built into the walls and floor. This was not a pit by accident. This was his design. He could have killed her. If he had triggered the trap, she would already be gone. Yet he hadn't. Her weapon trembled slightly in her hand.
"Why?" she demanded. The human tilted his head.
His voice was calm, steady. "Because you are not my enemy." Not tonight. The words struck deeper than any blade. She had never heard Prey speak like this. Not with such certainty. For a long moment, silence filled the pit. Only the sound of dripping water broke it. The warrior's breath grew heavy inside her mask. She could end it now. One strike, one shot, and her mission would be complete. But she didn't move. Her weapon lowered just slightly. She hated herself for it, yet she could not stop. The human watched her carefully, his eyes sharp but not afraid. He reached into his torn pack and pulled out something small. He set it gently on the ground between them. It was food. A small piece of bread wrapped in cloth. Her eyes locked on it. "You'll need strength," he said simply. "The cold is coming." She stared at him, confused, her mind twisting. This was not the behavior of Prey. This was something else, something she could not yet understand. The silence grew heavier. She finally stepped back, weapon still in hand, but her heart uncertain. The hunt was changing again. Not predator and prey, not hunter and hunted. Something different. The human turned his head, listening to the distant howl of the wind outside the cave. "The night will freeze us both," he whispered. And for the first time, the alien warrior felt doubt. Not about her strength. Not about her honor, but about the truth of the hunt itself. The jungle outside the cave had changed. Where before there was only mist and shadow, now came a new enemy. The cold snow began to fall from the black sky, silent and endless. The ground turned white, the trees heavy with frost. The air grew sharp, cutting into the lungs like glass. Even the jungle animals had gone quiet, retreating into hidden shelters. The alien world was frozen, waiting. And in the middle of that storm, the warrior walked. Her armor was built for battle, not for warmth. Each step grew heavier, slower. Her breath fogged the inside of her mask. She tried to ignore it. She told herself she was stronger than the cold. But her body disagreed. Muscles stiffened. Fingers numbed. Her pulse slowed. Still, she pushed on. She would not stop. She would not give up. The human was still ahead somewhere in this frozen night. The hunt had to continue. Her people demanded victory. Yet every few steps her vision blurred. The storm pressed against her, forcing her down. She staggered to a tree, pressing her armored hand to the bark. The wind screamed, carrying the sound of breaking branches. Somewhere in that storm she thought she heard footsteps, light, quick, human. She turned sharply, weapon raised. But there was nothing. Only snow swirling like ghosts. Her heart pounded harder, but her body betrayed her. Her knees weakened. Her breath rasped inside her mask. The cold was winning. The warrior tried to move again. One step, then another. But her body trembled, refusing to obey. She fell to one knee, snow crunching beneath her weight. Her vision dimmed. For the first time in her life, she realized she might not die in battle. But here, alone, frozen, defeated not by blade, but by nature. Her pride burned hotter than the cold. She struck the ground with her fist. She would not end this way. She could not, but her body betrayed her again. Her weapon slipped from her hands, falling into the snow with a dull thud. She collapsed beside it. The storm howled above her. Her eyelids grew heavy. Through blurred vision, she thought she saw a shadow moving between the trees. A figure, tall and thin, human. She wanted to rise, to fight, but her body would not move. She tried to reach for her weapon, but her fingers no longer obeyed. The shadow drew closer. Her last thought before darkness claimed her was a bitter one. The prey has come to finish me. When her eyes opened again, the world had changed. There was warmth. A fire crackled nearby, orange flames licking the air. The snowstorm outside still raged, but here in this small shelter of stone and branches the air was softer, warmer, and over her body lay something unexpected. A blanket, roughly woven from animal fur and plant fibers, heavy, warm. Her mask blinked with low energy signals. She had lost time, hours maybe. She sat up slowly, her muscles aching, her vision still foggy. Her weapon was gone. Across the fire the human sat. His hands worked silently, pulling threads, twisting fibers, weaving another blanket. His clothes were torn, his face thin, but his movements were calm, steady. He had built this fire. He had saved her. The alien warrior's first instinct was to reach for her weapon, but it was not there. Her second instinct was to attack, to strike with her bare hands. But she did not move, she only stared. The human noticed her eyes and spoke without looking up. His voice was soft, calm, like the fire itself. You would not have survived the night without this. Her jaw tightened. She was the hunter. He was the prey, yet he had saved her. Why? She demanded, her voice rough, breaking the silence. The human lifted his eyes, meeting hers. His gaze was steady, unafraid. Because no one should freeze to death. Not even an enemy. The words struck her like a blade. She had been taught humans were weak, selfish, cowardly. Yet this one had shown mercy. She clenched her fists, her pride battling with confusion. She should end him now. He was defenseless. Yet her body remained still. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. The storm outside howled louder, but inside, the silence grew heavy. The human placed the half-finished blanket aside and leaned back against the stone wall. He did not fear her. He did not even watch her closely. It was as if he knew she would not strike, and that frightened her more than any weapon. For the first time in the hunt, she was not sure who truly held the power. The cold night had almost ended her. But instead it had changed everything. She was no longer just the hunter. He was no longer just the hunted. Something unspoken had begun between them. something that could not be explained by training, by duty, or by pride. The storm outside raged on, but inside, by the fire, the alien warrior and the human sat in silence, not as predator and prey, but as two survivors of the same night. And for the first time, the warrior wondered what tomorrow would bring. The fire still burned. Its orange glow painted the walls of the small shelter. Snow fell outside in heavy silence, but here, warmth lived. Sparks rose, then faded into the night. The alien warrior sat against the stone wall, her armor cold but her body wrapped in the rough blanket. She could still feel the weight of it pressing on her shoulders. The human had made it, the prey she had chased for days, the prey who had spared her life. She should have been angry. She should have struck him the moment she woke. Instead, she watched. The human sat across the fire, his hands working with quiet focus. He pulled at fibers, tied knots, and twisted strands together. Another blanket slowly grew beneath his fingers. His face was tired, pale from the cold, but his eyes were alive, calm, steady. For a long time, there were no words, only the sound of crackling flames and the whisper of the storm outside. Finally, the warrior spoke. Her voice was low, sharp, but not as steady as before. "You saved me, why?" The human did not look up. He tied another knot, pulled the fibers tight, and only then answered. "Because I had to." Her eyes narrowed behind her mask. "You had no reason. I am your enemy." He looked at her now. His gaze was clear, direct. "Out there in the snow, you were not my enemy. You were someone dying." The words unsettled her. She had been taught all her life that humans were weak, selfish, dangerous. Yet here he was, choosing mercy instead of victory. She clenched her fists. "You think kindness makes you strong?" The human gave a small smile. Not mocking, not proud, simply real. "Sometimes, yes." Stronger than weapons, her chest tightened. She hated that his words stirred something inside her. She wanted to believe he was wrong. That strength belonged only to warriors, to hunters, to those who conquered. But sitting there in the firelight, wrapped in the blanket he had made, she could not deny it. For a long time, neither spoke. The fire filled the silence between them. Then the human reached into his small pack and pulled out a piece of dried meat. He placed it on the ground between them and pushed it toward her. "Eat," he said. "You need strength." The warrior froze. Sharing food was a sign of trust, a bond. Her instincts screamed that it was a trick, but her body, still weak from the cold, betrayed her hunger. Slowly, cautiously, she picked up the food and ate. It was rough, bitter, but it gave her strength. She chewed in silence, her eyes locked on the human. "You confuse me," she said finally. The human tilted his head. "How so?" "You are prey. You should fear me. Yet you sit calmly as if you control the hunt." His smile returned, faint but steady. "Maybe the hunt has changed." Her mask glowed faintly, reflecting the firelight. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to remind him of her mission, her duty, her honor. But deep inside, a thought whispered. Perhaps he was right. The storm outside howled louder, shaking the shelter walls. The fire flickered, shadows dancing across their faces. The human leaned back, staring into the flames. His voice grew softer, almost like a memory. "I used to think survival meant fighting everything. The world, the cold, the enemy. But I've learned. Sometimes survival means helping someone else survive." The warrior's eyes narrowed. His words did not sound like those of a weak creature. They sounded like wisdom, dangerous wisdom. "Do you not fear me?" she asked. The human met her gaze again. His voice was steady. "I should, but no, I don't." Her chest tightened again. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not with courage. Not with calm. Silence stretched again, but this silence was different. Not the silence of enemies waiting to strike. The silence of two beings trying to understand each other. The warrior pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. The warmth was strange, comforting, dangerous. "You are a strange human," she muttered. He gave a small laugh. "I've heard that before." The fire crackled louder, filling the night. The storm outside began to ease. Snow still fell, but softer now, gentler. The alien warrior looked into the flames, her mind heavy. She had begun this hunt with certainty. She was the predator. The human was prey. But tonight nothing felt certain anymore. She should kill him. That was her mission. That was her duty. But instead she sat by his fire, under his blanket, eating his food. She hated the confusion. She hated the weakness. But most of all, she hated that she did not want to leave. The human leaned forward, feeding another branch into the fire. His voice was quiet, but she heard every word. Not all wars are worth fighting. Her hand twitched toward her weapon, but she did not move. His words cut deeper than any blade. The flames danced between them, bright and alive, and in that moment she knew something had changed forever. The hunt was no longer about survival. It was about something far more dangerous. Trust. The storm outside had passed, but its shadow still lingered in the air. The ground was white with snow, the trees heavy and silent as if the world itself had frozen in thought. Inside the small shelter, the fire burned low. Its glow touched the stone walls, flickering like a heartbeat. Smoke curled lazily into the night. The alien warrior sat close to the flames, her armor dull with frost. The rough blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. She had not removed it. She told herself it was only for warmth, yet a part of her knew it meant more. Across from her, the human worked quietly. He cut strips of bark, twisted fibers, and wove them into a stronger rope. His movements were calm, practiced, like someone who had lived a long time in struggle. Neither spoke for a while. The silence was not heavy like before. It was different now. A silence of thought. A silence of questions neither dared to ask aloud. The warrior's eyes never left him. She studied the lines on his face, the steady focus in his hands. Every movement felt deliberate. He was not careless. He was not weak. Her people had told her humans were fragile. Yet this one was alive after days of chase, after storms and hunger. Alive and strong in ways she could not explain. Finally, she broke the silence. You could have killed me in the pit. Why didn't you? The human tied another knot, then looked up. His gaze was calm, steady, but not unkind. Because killing you would have changed nothing. The storm would still come. The night would still freeze. I chose something else. Her chest tightened. Mercy? She asked, her voice sharp. He shook his head. Survival. Mercy is just another name for it. His answer unsettled her more than she expected. She wanted to argue, to remind him that warriors survive by strength, not kindness. But her mind betrayed her. She remembered the fire, the blanket, the food. She remembered the warmth that still shielded her even now. She lowered her gaze, staring into the flames. The fire crackled, throwing sparks into the air. The human's voice broke the silence again, softer this time. You think I'm prey. Maybe I am. But prey that survives long enough becomes something else. Her head snapped up. His eyes held hers unflinching. There was no fear in them, no weakness, only truth. For the first time, the warrior felt the edges of her certainty crumble. Her mission had been clear. Hunt the human, kill or capture, return victorious. But now, sitting across from him, she found herself asking questions she had never asked before. Why did he save her? Why was he unafraid? Why did her heart beat faster when he spoke? The silence stretched again, but it was no longer empty. It was full. Full of things unsaid. The human placed the rope aside and leaned back, staring at the ceiling of the shelter. His voice came out like a whisper. I've been hunted before. By beasts, by storms, by men stronger than me. But you are different. Her breath caught. Different how? He turned his head, his gaze steady. You don't want to kill me. Not anymore. The words cut her deeper than any blade. Her fist clenched around the blanket. He was wrong. He had to be wrong. But inside her heart, doubt burned. She rose to her feet quickly, her armor clanking. The sudden motion startled the fire, sending sparks flying. She pointed at him, her voice hard. Do not think you know me. I am a warrior. You are nothing but prey. The human did not move. He sat still, his gaze calm. Then why am I alive? Her voice caught in her throat. She wanted to answer, but no words came. The fire cracked again, filling the silence. Slowly, she lowered her hand. Her shoulders sagged beneath the weight of her armor. She turned away, her eyes fixed on the snow outside the entrance. The human's voice followed her softly. You could kill me now, or you could sit by the fire. The choice is yours. Her hands trembled at her sides. She hated that he spoke as though he had power. She hated more that he was right. She returned to the fire, sitting slowly, silently. Her mask hid her face, but inside her thoughts twisted like storm winds. The fire warmed them both. The storm outside was gone, but a storm inside her had begun. She had thought herself the hunter, chasing prey through jungle and stone. But now, sitting in silence, she began to wonder, was she hunting him? Or had he been hunting her all along? Drawing her closer, not with weapons, but with something far more dangerous. Trust. The warrior stared into the fire, her fists clenched tight. She had never feared battle, never feared pain. But this bond growing in silence, this was something she did not know how to fight, and that frightened her most of all. The night was quiet. The storm had passed, leaving the jungle frozen in silence. Snow covered the trees like pale armor, and the moonlight turned the world into silver shadows. Inside the small shelter, the fire burned low. Its light flickered across the stone walls, painting shapes that danced and vanished. The alien warrior sat with her back straight, the blanket still over her shoulders. Across from her, the human rested against the wall, eyes half closed, his face tired but calm. The silence between them was heavy. Not empty, not hostile, simply full of things unsaid. She stared at him, her mind a battlefield. Her mission echoed in her skull like a drum. Capture the human. Kill if needed. Return with honor. But that mission felt far away now. Lost in the snow, burned away by the firelight. Finally, she broke the silence. Her voice was rough, almost uncertain. You have had many chances to end me. Yet you did not. Why? The human opened his eyes, meeting hers without fear. His voice was steady, calm, the voice of someone who had already made peace with the world. Because I learned something long ago. Sometimes the real victory isn't killing your enemy. Sometimes it's changing them. The words struck her harder than any weapon. She tightened her fists inside the blanket. Change me? You think you can? He did not smile this time. His face was serious, his gaze unbroken. I don't need to change you. You're already changing. Her chest tightened. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to stand, to shout, to remind him who she was, a warrior, a hunter, a predator. But her heart betrayed her. Her silence betrayed her. She lowered her gaze to the fire. The flames danced, alive and untamed, just like him. For the first time in her life, she felt small. Not because of weakness, but because of truth. The human leaned forward, his voice softer now. You chased me through jungle, through stone, through storm, and in the end, you found me not with weapons, but with fire and warmth. Her eyes snapped up. His words were simple, but they burned. She remembered every moment, the false trails, the laughter in the cave, the trap he never triggered, the blanket he wove while she slept. He had been more than prey. He had been guiding her, testing her, teaching her. The hunter had been hunted in a way she could not fight. Slowly, painfully, she whispered, Perhaps you are not prey. The human's eyes softened. He nodded once. Not proud, not mocking, only certain. For a long moment, the fire filled the silence. Then the warrior rose to her feet. The blanket slid from her shoulders, falling silently to the floor. She stood tall, her armor glinting in the firelight. She reached down and picked up her weapon. The human tensed but did not move. He did not beg. He did not fear. He only watched. She raised the weapon, her hands trembling. This was the moment. Her mission, her honor, her people all demanded she strike, but she could not. Her weapon lowered, slowly, heavily, until the tip touched the ground. Her voice cracked, the sound raw in her throat. You hunted me too, but not with blades, with something stronger. The human tilted his head. And what is that? She hesitated, then answered in a whisper. Compassion. The word felt strange on her tongue, like speaking in a language she had never known. Yet it was the truth. The fire flickered as if agreeing. She turned toward the shelter's entrance. Outside, the snow glowed faintly under the moonlight. The world waited. Her people waited. If she returned with this human, her honor would remain intact. But if she returned alone, they would ask questions. They would sense betrayal. Her heart battled inside her chest. Duty against truth. Mission against change. The human's voice followed her, quiet but sharp as a blade. You have a choice. You can end this and return as the warrior they expect, or you can leave and return as something greater. Her breath caught. She hated him for his words. She hated him because they were true. Slowly, she looked back. Their eyes met across the fire. In that gaze, she saw no prey, no enemy, only an equal. For the first time, she felt the weight of freedom. She whispered almost to herself, Perhaps not all wars are worth fighting. The human gave the faintest smile, a tired smile, a knowing smile. The fire burned lower, the night growing quiet again. Two figures sat in silence. No longer predator and prey, but something else, something fragile, something dangerous. The world outside remained frozen. But inside, something new had begun to thaw. The hunt was over, but their story had only just begun.